Thanks again to Ian, and I'm going to ask Tanja Pullwit to come up and give us a slightly different perspective on asset integrity. Tanja is the Group Senior Safety Advisor at Petrofac, and she's going to be speaking about human factors and asset integrity. Tanja has actually been involved with step change for a long time, personal responsibility for safety since 2005, and she also regularly participates in support of human factors events. I think it's a great opportunity just to look at the man, the human in the process. Asset integrity isn't just about the built environment, it's much more complex than that. Tanja.
Thank you, Les, and hello from my side to the audience. Good morning. Hope you're all well. So asset integrity and human factors, two sides of the same story. I'm going to give you a bit of background on why I've chosen this topic. I've got an engineering background, and about 10 years ago I moved into safety, psychology, and human factors. So my whole thinking and my way of ticking was coming from the engineering side. So if there's a problem, you develop a tool and fix it. That's how I thought you approach any kind of challenge that you have in operations. When you talk about people, it's not that simple. And I think that's why in our world, in our industry, we tend to shy away from the people side in operations, and there's problems we have with behavior, with psychology, with safety, with human factors. So when I look back at the last 10 years in our industry, I thought, why is it then, about 10 years ago, the idea about asset integrity was born, and it has since pretty much consistently and successfully moved into our thinking of how we handle operation. And why is it that human factors, the idea aren't looking into people and why people fail and what goes wrong, has been born about the same time, and we haven't really moved yet. We have all this good stuff about human factors and step change initiative about human factors, and we keep talking about the same thing, and we haven't really moved. So for the journey I've prepared for you today, and I aim to do nothing less than that, is to show you how you can do both. You can look at asset integrity and all the plan and processes, and you can manage this, and you can look at people and all the processes there and all the challenges there, and you can manage this. So how can we do this? And I try to bridge that gap between all the technology and all the asset integrity planned aspect and the people aspect in an engineering thinking way. So this is why I call this two sides of the same story. So let's start with asset integrity and how it ties together with human factors. I've provided you with a picture that most of you might be familiar with, where you see asset integrity and the core parts that make up asset integrity in your philosophies. So you have plant, and that is the asset, the hardware, the technology, the equipment, all the stuff that you work with. And then you've got the people who actually work with the very technology and the hardware. And these people come with their own mindsets, with their attitudes, they have their roles and responsibilities, there's heavily leadership involved in guiding and providing supervision. These people need to be competent, so you have these competency systems in place. You talk a lot about culture, safety culture, different cultures across the globe doing the same kind of things. So you have to deal with all of this. And then we've got the processes, procedures, the permit to work systems, the risk assessments, the communication systems that kind of tie everything together. So when we talk about asset integrity, we very often talk about the top bit, which is the hardware. And we sometimes also talk about the processes, which is the bit in between that kind of makes everything run. But we barely ever talk about the people, unless we talk about problems. So I'd like to change this. So I give you another picture that shows something similar because of the similar structure, and it talks about human factors. We also have three bubbles. They're the three pillars. This is what you find on the AECC site. So human factors is defined as the three pillars, the job, the individual, and the organization that contribute to the health and safety of people. It's that easy. Human factors is about the interaction of people with their environment. So the individuals themselves, they come with their skills, attitudes, risk perception, situation awareness. You can throw all these blurry concepts at people and confuse them, because I just leave it. We talk about jobs, and this is where asset integrity comes in right away. We talk about the task, the workload, but we also talk about display and control, so the interaction between people and the very things they're using, the tools, the machinery, the control room, everything that they use. And then there's procedure in there. So obviously this ties in with systems. So you go back here, we've got processes and procedures, we've got technology, it's all in the job side there. And then we've got organization. So the culture of an organization, the leadership, and again, you've seen that just a minute ago, the resources, communication is all in that level. So all of this make up human factors. So obviously it doesn't take much to see that there's a huge overlap between your definition of asset integrity and the AECC and other definitions of human factors. So why haven't we kind of closed that gap and build that bridge? Well, let's try this together. So the first question I ask is, what is asset integrity management all about? So why are we doing this? We try to keep the oil and gas in the pipe. Now in our industry, this is what it's all about. This is the bottom line of why we do the things. We try to keep the oil and gas in the pipe so it reaches land and then can be processed there. We try to reduce downtime, save money. We try to reduce maintenance issues so that we don't have to later on play firefighting. And we try to provide a safe environment for our people. A, because it's our legal duty, and B, because we don't want anybody to be hurt. So in the end, this is all about degradation, and Ian just mentioned that word in his presentation. It's not all about corrosion, but it's all about preventing degradation. That's why we do asset integrity. That's why we're all here. So what I've now done is I've taken an asset integrity management model, and you might be familiar with this one or another one. The idea of this is pretty much the same everywhere you go. And it's the idea that you find in engineering. You have a challenge somewhere, so you go out and you try to get the status quo. You try to measure what's going on. And then you see where the big points are, where there's room for improvement, because you have identified beforehand where you want to go. And then you try to close this gap by putting measures into place, and then you measure again. So it's a constant, it's a continuous improvement process, and it's this constant check loop of where are we, where do we want to go, how do we close this gap? And it's the same in this model, and it's the same everywhere. So why don't we use that for human factors? And I'll show you how. So define your strategy, that's the first step. What is your long-term goal, and what are your available resources? Now, in the UK, we've moved a bit away from the long-term goal being keep the asset going for the design lifetime to keep the asset going for the well lifetime. And you know this. So we have challenges there, but we have that goal, and we have to look at available resources to meet that target every year anew. And it's part of your business planning every year from scratch to have a budget to meet that goal. So once you've defined that goal and you've got your resources, you have to plan your, what I call inspections, but you can just say any kind of activities. We take the inspections as an example here for an activity to kind of reach your goal. So you would look at your most critical areas. You plan to look at your most critical areas. You have to identify them first. So we want to go somewhere, so that's our goal. So where are we and how do we get there? What are our critical areas? And which methods shall we apply to measure degradation? Yeah, so what you have to put in place to find out which measures, which methods can be used to find out where we are weak and where we have to improve. So any examples from your side, what you do in asset integrity? How do you know where your most critical areas are? Maybe you look at safety cases. You might think of safety critical elements. These are the very elements that you have to make sure work and are in place. You might think of water pumps, HVAC systems, and you name them. So let's say these are your most critical areas. And then your pipe work. Yeah, you've inherited or bought an asset that is 20 years old and has long past its design life, but it's not yet past its well life. So what are the areas that you have to look at and make sure that they're still maintained and keep working so that the gas and oil keeps flowing. So you have to identify this and plan your inspections. And then once you've identified these areas, you go out and execute your inspections. So use all kinds of methodologies to check whether your asset is working fine, whether things are according to the way they should be. So you take your samples, you have your ultrasonic equipment that you go out with. Some people might still go out with a hammer. Yeah, the old engineers that go out with a hammer and check for the sound of the pipe and the thickness of the assumed thickness of walls. So you've got all these best practices, experts out there with their knowledge and experience performing those tasks. And then on the basis of that, you can forecast the system performance. And then once you've done this and collected all this data, you review this and you analyze your data. So you can then determine how severe are the risks in these areas that we've identified. And what can we do about them to prevent failure? So what are the potential failure areas? Where do we have to maybe act immediately? And where we have long-term plans in place that, to tackle our problems? And how, while doing all this, can we maintain productivity and safety? So you might have your quick fixes, you might have your long-term fixes. Some of the quick fixes might become long-term problems, but you still have to manage all of this. And this is what you do in asset integrity. And then once you've reviewed it and you've agreed on what you have to do, you implement your actions. So you might go out and then fix a hose, fix a valve, replace a pipe, or do something else. So according to the degree of criticality, you have your immediate actions on your long-term actions. And again, it's all according to your budgets that you have devoted to these activities. So that's the whole circle. Yeah? So you start with defining your strategy, plan your inspections, then execute your inspections, you review your analysis, review the data and analysis results, and then you receive your recommendations and implement them. And then you're back to scratch. Start again from your strategy and see where you are now and where you go next. So, do you see the elephant in the room here? Yeah, there you go. It's that guy. Because so far we've talked about processes and equipment, hardware and processes. We haven't talked about people. So let's talk about horses. You see the horse? You saw the frog? Okay, why am I showing you this? Because you have to see the bigger picture in order to understand asset integrity in its full. So some people look at asset integrity and they see plant, equipment, and systems. I look at asset integrity and I see people. And I would like you today to see both. So now you can see maybe the horse and the frog. And I've tried to do the same now with human factors. So who discovers and reports leaks? Who makes sure that we work in a safe environment? Who operates the equipment? Who understands when the equipment is broken? Who changes procedures? Who replaces hoses, flanges, pipes, and valves? Who maintains the tools? Who applies all the systems and procedures? Who keeps the oil and gas in the pipes? Who makes sure that downtime is reduced? Who makes sure that the maintenance issues are reduced? And who makes sure that a safer environment is provided? The pipes? Nope. What's the core bit in all of this? What's the core element? It's people. So let's talk about human factors in our industry and what it is about. Human factors in our oil and gas industry is about keeping the oil and gas in the pipe. That's what we're here for. Every HSE person is in this industry to keep the oil and gas in the pipe. It's about reducing downtime. That's what we work for. It's about reducing maintenance issues because we want to provide a safe environment. The target, our target, is the same. It's all about preventing degradation. Now, what kind of degradation am I talking about? Leadership, performance, culture, communication, competency. These are the things that we find degrading. And so we try to target those. This is where, in an audience like this one here, where people like you coming together, you try to see that shine away, where people go, oh, but this is complex. This is difficult. This is tricky. I don't know how to do this. You call this complex? You do that. This looks awful, and you do that. So why not try the other side? Why not try the people? I'd like to show you some data. I'm really thankful for what Ian's just introduced you to, because I was trying to find that kind of data, and I couldn't. So but the data I found is what I'm presenting you with here. So this is a report that shows the offshore hydrocarbon release dangerous occurrences between 1996, 97, and 2012, 13. So we can see there's a downward trend in hydrocarbon dangerous release occurrences on all three categories: minor, significant, and major. So this is good. If we go to the AECC hydrocarbon release system webpage, we see that between last year and this year, there has been ups and downs, and most recently, there's been an upward trend in hydrocarbon releases. And I know that in the past step change events and meetings, this has been cause for discussion. And it is a really big cause for concern at the moment. So how does human factors and how do people in data tie in with this? This is an extract from a report that I found on the agency site saying, this is the analysis of investigative offshore hydrocarbon releases. So they've analyzed, like Ian did today, hydrocarbon releases offshore, and they found that the largest single cause was degradation of material properties, which accounted for 28% of the incidents. So that is asset integrity technical side. Incorrect installation at 21% was the second biggest cause, along with fatigue and vibration. So incorrect installation sounds like somebody's doing something wrong. So that's the people side. But what is going wrong? What's that person doing that causes this failure? We don't know. We don't know. And this data analysis from 2001 and 2002. So I thought, okay, that's fine. This is what it was then. Where are we now? So I looked at another report, HSE, again, analysis of investigated offshore hydrocarbon releases. And again, they looked at causes for hydrocarbon releases and looked at operational causes. And they said that out of all the ones that were reported, 18 major and 32 significant releases had a non, as an unknown cause. Okay. However, 5 releases and 5 major and 4 significant releases were down to improper operation and improper maintenance. No, sorry, 5 were down to improper operation and 4 were down to improper maintenance. So again, there's human factors, there's people coming into. We have operation and maintenance and some difficult wrong handling of it that cause these releases. So we can see in these data, although we don't know why people do things wrong, we can see that they are doing things wrong, and there's a tight link between performance of the asset and people doing things wrong. Now, in order to understand what it is that people do wrong and that causes these releases, we have to start reporting those events by going into this why. So why is it that this happened? What do we have to do on the people side to improve? How can we measure this to then improve? And this is an example of an incident investigation or incident reporting system that shows you the categories you could put in for the root cause. So the answer to my question, why? And if you look at this, without going into details, you've got a few that link to behavior and people. So not following procedures, maybe wrong use of tools, wrong use of protective methods, inattention, lack of awareness behaviors, and then further down, point 7, you see human factors. If you look at the human factors part of this only, you see that these two categories relate to human factors. The others are wrong use, but they don't tell you why somebody's used something wrong. Human factors are very broad, wouldn't tell you anything about why people done something wrong. And it's a very common thing to put into an incident investigation report, cause human error or human factors. It doesn't tell us anything. If it's inattention, if it's lack of awareness, that's something we can start working with. So we can maybe do awareness raising trainings or try to somehow else train people or make them aware of what's going on. This is another, you might have seen this before, another categorization system that I've taken off this change web page. You see moving machinery, falling or flying objects, moving vehicle or vessel, and I'm not going through all of them, but if I was now, I could tell you right away, this is the one I would choose if I want to report on the human factor. There's nothing in this categorization system that allows me to report on the people side of the incident. So where are we? We're pretty far away from being able to actually report on the people factor side of any incident in asset integrity. This guy, Edward Deming, said something really smart once. He said, you can only manage, you cannot manage what you don't measure, or you can only manage what you measure, whichever way. So in order to manage something, you have to measure this first. Now I put this on its head because I start wondering why in 10 years we haven't started to measure. If we were measuring, we had no excuse for not managing anymore. If we were measuring, we had no excuse for managing anymore. So if you really want to manage, you have to start measuring. You might ask now, how can we do this? How can we measure people? How can we measure behavior and performance and all this? Use the same approach. So this is what I'm doing now. I'm going to show you the same asset integrity management system applied to human factors. So the first thing is you define your strategy. What is your long-term goal? What are your available resources? Your long-term goal will be written out in your health and safety policy statement. And then you have to define a budget for this. And you have to do this every year, just like you do it for asset integrity on the technical side and on the system side. But you do it for the people side. Once you've done this, you plan your inspection. So you identify what are your most critical areas and which methods shall we apply to measure degradation. Tricky, complex, tough. Can we do this? Yes, you've got a tool. You use this tool as the human factors questionnaire that's provided by Step Change to identify your critical areas. Send it out to people, you get a response back, and then you see where your critical areas are. You can as well decide to use the HSE Inspector's Toolkit. This toolkit provides you with a question set that you can use in your inspection to go out and measure human factors. For every possible topic that comes out on the people side, there will be a question set that you can use. And you can do what is called the safety critical task analysis, where you identify the very parts of every task that's performed offshore and their link to major accident hazards. So once you've decided which one you want to use and where your critical areas might be, you apply the correct methods, best practices. You bring in experts or you have them in-house and experience, and you forecast your system's performance. So you go out and you use a question set, a toolkit, whatever, and you gather data. This is you going out with your ultrasonic device. You're measuring what's going on. This is an example for a safety critical task analysis used for cooking. So if you want to serve a nice meal, you prepare your ingredients, you prepare your cooking equipment, and you assemble appropriate utensils and condiments, and then you toast your bread, fry your eggs, grill your bacon, fry your sausages, and lay the table. This is just a very simple breakdown of what we do in safety critical task analysis. We break down every task into subtasks, sub-subtasks, and sub-sub-subtasks, until we get to the very lowest level of performing an action. And then we look at that very lowest level at where can a person err. If that person at this step presses the wrong button, would that cause hydrocarbon release? Would that cause a major accident? And there you've got your safety critical elements for human behavior. You've identified them. Once you have your data gathered with these tools, you can review them and you will identify immediately, we have a problem here. Maybe it's communication, maybe it's leadership, maybe it's fatigue, maybe it's shift patterns, you name them. So you have to identify you have to rate how severe is this, and what can we do about the potential failure areas, and how can we maintain productivity and safety? So what do we have to tackle? So again, you might ask, how do I do this? How can I tackle this? How can I change this? It's all there. The Energy Institute provides you with human factors, top 10 issues, and I zoom into the bottom there because that's the top 10. Organizational change, staffing arrangements and workload, training and competency, fatigue, human factors engineering, which Tim Southern will tell you is human factors engineering, and he is the expert on that. Procedures, organizational culture, communications, integration of human factors into risk assessments, and managing human failures. That's the top 10. And if you click on any of those, let's say staffing, you'd get a 3-tier recommendation list. And again, I zoom in. So you've got introductory resources to get your head around what is this all about, then practical tools for improvement and advanced resources. All you have to do is use it. If you think this isn't enough, you go to the HSE website, they give you another top 10, and guess what? It's the same thing. Managing human failures, procedures, training and competency, staffing, organizational change, communication, human factors, and design, and so on. It's all there. So now you've done your analysis, you've gathered the data, you've done your analysis, you've found out where you have to work, you've got the tools to work on this, then you go out and implement the recommendation and implement these tools. And that might mean that you have to go out and do training on the job. It might mean that you have to reorganize your stuff or your shift patterns to prevent fatigue, or to have different rota, or bring in new people. It might mean that you have to rewrite your procedures or make them better in that way they can be used and more visual. Whatever it means, you have to do it. And once you've done it, you've closed the circle. That's you. So do you see the whole picture? Thank you.
So I think, firstly I have to thank Tanja. I've spent the last 3 years in Step Change trying to figure out how we do something with human factors, and I think now I know. It's been a nebulous, challenging topic that's just sat on the horizon for us, and we've worked very, very hard to bring it to reality. And Tanja's just done it in 30 minutes, so I guess perhaps I should have had that presentation earlier. But the toolkit's there. The toolkit's there for us to use. It's signposted exactly as Tanja said. You know, once you've done your basic assessment, it points you to the Energy Institute and the HSE guidance to actually do something with the actions and recommendations that come out of the toolkit. So I could put you all on the spot and tell you only 6% of members are using the toolkit right now, but and I could be even more rude and tell you who they are, but I'm not going to do that. But most importantly, it's there. Please go away and try and put some of what Tanja has shown us to the into action and implement it.